Recognition, power, and influence is your birthright, and this podcast shows you how to get there. Welcome to episode number 268. Today's episode, I'm going to show you exactly how you can start to break free from middle management hell. If it feels terrible to be bopped around, told what to do from the top, trying to get your team to do what you say to do, and they won't listen to you at the bottom, then you are absolutely not alone. But my clients every single day are breaking free from that hell, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can do it too. Let's get started.
Welcome to Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and I teach you how to get promoted, get paid, and bring your whole self to the leadership table. I am on a mission to change organizations from the C-suite out because women are the new face of leadership, and we are doing it on our terms.
Hello, corporate badasses. Welcome to another episode of Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and super excited, as always, to be here with you again this week. Today's episode is being recorded directly after Valentine's Day, and through no fault of my husband, I felt really blah yesterday. And it was actually really interesting. When I talked to all of my clients all day yesterday, they were like, today is quite a week. And, I just want to kind of acknowledge that because I know that one of the things that has really helped me a lot in my emotional journey is that when I'm experiencing blah days or icky days or days where nothing seems to be working, I just kind of look out and I notice that other people around me are kind of experiencing the same thing. And I think that's actually really helpful because typically, what that means to me is that something is happening in the world. And so it's not a surprise to me that it was a full moon this week, that we also are in this point of winter where things are dark and heavy, and we haven't quite seen spring yet. And so when we look out in the world and nature, we can really see and be reminded of why things feel so blah to us, even on a day that was, created by Hallmark to supposedly feel the love. So I just want to acknowledge that today, as if you kind of felt the same thing last week, you are absolutely not alone. All right. So now, speaking of blah and maybe even a little bit of torture, today's episode is we are going all the way into this dark place. So the way I want to start out today's episode is about the dentist. Okay. And so I actually started my week going to the dentist. Maybe that's where I went wrong. And I was sitting in the dentist chair and I was thinking to myself, wow, the dentist is a lot like middle management. And I came up with this beautiful metaphor between the dentist and what it feels like to be in middle management. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you are a woman in leadership feeling very stuck and like you can't break free and you have people at the top telling you what to do, people at the bottom who won't seem to do anything that you tell them to do, you are in the right place. So we're going to talk about that feeling today and what you can start to do to make strides to get yourself out of middle management hell. All right, so back to the dentist. So I used to go to this dentist. Actually, let me just give you a point of reference. So my teeth are okay. I've had lots of braces and things like that in my life, but I tend not to have a ton of dental work. So my regular dental visits are pretty, boring and relatively routine. So I switched dentists at one time, and I had this dental hygienist that would come in and she would kill me. Literally, I think I went to her for 3 years. So the woman who cleaned my teeth before the dentist came in, she just would get in there and it hurt so bad. And she would shame me the whole time, talk about how terrible my teeth are. Of course, it didn't feel like shaming. It just sort of felt like truth. It felt like fact. It felt like well, yeah, maybe I do need to be brushing more. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. Maybe my teeth are falling apart. Maybe my gums are a mess. And then she would proceed to sell me services. So I ended up spending a lot of money to do like a deep cleaning on my gums. And, yeah. So anyway, there was lots of work being done constantly. And I remember talking to my friends eventually, right? So this was after many torturous visits to the dentist. And they said to me, it doesn't have to be that way. And I was like, well, no, it's because it's my teeth, right? So this woman led me to believe that it was me and it was my problem. And then I talked to another person that also went to that same dentist and they were like, oh my God, she is the worst. She does that to me all the time. And then my husband went to her one time and he was like, whoa, that woman's nuts. Right? Like, and I was like, really? I thought it was my teeth. So I hope you're following me here in the fact that I completely internalized this process that this woman was doing as being something that I was deficient at and that I just had to deal with it. I just had to suck it up. It just was what it was. One day, I decided to find a new dentist. A couple of incredible things happened when I found that new dentist. One is the insurance got easier because I don't know, this dentist office cost a lot of money and I was paying out of pocket and I had to do all these extra services. So it actually got cheaper. That was kind of cool. But, the new dental hygienist is amazing and she cleans my teeth very thoroughly. And I'm sitting there in the dentist chair on Monday. I am not enjoying it. It doesn't feel like a spa treatment, it hurts. There's no shaming involved. There is a very thorough checkup. There is actual, noticing different parts of my teeth, having conversation about it. It feels, like I said, again, very thorough, but it didn't feel painful. It didn't feel torturous. And I didn't walk away feeling bad about myself. I was just like, oh, now I have a really great metaphor for middle management. That's how I left the dentist on Monday. And I want to go into my conversation about middle management from that place. So, middle management is a torturous experience as a whole, right? So, a lot of dentists get a bad rap anyway. Like, there are very few people who like to go to the dentist who are like, yes, I can't wait to go to the dentist. And there are a lot of amazing dentists out there, of course. I'm acknowledging on the other side that this is not a torturous profession, but it has a bad rep. Gosh, if you've seen Little Shop of Horrors, they did a wonderful scene with the dentist. It's actually a really beautiful, funny movie if you never saw it back in the day. But and musical, by the way, that's how I know it. But I just want to acknowledge that since I came up in theater myself. So dentists get a bad rap, just like middle management. Middle management sucks. Nobody says to themselves, I really want to be in middle management. You know what I really like to do is be a middle manager when I grow up. You know what I think would be really cool is to be a middle manager. I mean, even look at the television show The Office. So when you just see them in the office, Steve Carell's character looks like he's basically in charge, but he's not. He is a middle manager. Whenever he tries to do anything, whenever he tries to exude any level of authority, then he gets shot down by the corporate offices, by the head offices. And then when he tries to implement anything inside of his office, then people don't listen to him or they do whatever the heck they want. He is the perfect example of middle management. In his mind, he thinks he has a level of authority, but then when he tries to execute on anything, he realizes that he doesn't actually have any influence. So then he tries to pretend that he has influence. For many of you, especially as a woman, you're not really interested in pretending that you have influence. You either want to have actual influence or not. And so as a middle manager, what you end up doing is you end up managing up to the leadership up above, and they may or may not listen to your ideas or you feel included. And then you end up focusing down on your team because that's where you can have actual influence and you can bring some of your leadership skills into motivating them, maybe even mentoring them to become leaders eventually themselves. And you can most definitely focus on your work, which is 80% of your day. And so you find yourself in this sort of flip-flop middle place where you don't have any actual authority and you're not really sure if you have any influence, and you feel kind of proud about the work that you do because you get paid a decent salary. A lot of times, part of the middle management hell is that you get paid more than other people around you, whether it's your friends or your colleagues, but not enough to feel rich and abundant. It feels like this like purgatory hell. I know that I'm going on and I'm preaching to the choir, but I really want to point out that that is what it feels like, and that is where we think we have to stay. Very similar to the dentist. There's no part of us that thinks, oh, this is just going to be an incredible experience. Like, we know that going into it, we kind of accept it as our fate. And so some of us see it as just a job, or we see it as a stepping stone into actual influence and recognition and power. So we are looking at this as like a pass through type situation, or just like our lot in life. And then that's where we're going to be forever. But in today's episode, what I want to show you is that it doesn't have to be that way. Now, there's the one thing where you could just get another job. But of course, if you get another job and you're transitioning from a director to a director, you're still going to be a middle manager. Even if you're at that vice president level, or like I said, with Michael Scott in the office, you could be the head of the whole division and still be acting as a middle manager. It could still feel like a middle manager 150%. So if we can't just flip-flop dentists, or AKA companies, jobs, groups, to feel better, what do we need to do to start positioning ourselves into a better middle management position? Here is the answer. I'm going to give you a couple of different examples, but they all stem from one very simple yet not so easy to implement practice called 15-minute ally meetings. When you start doing 15-minute ally meetings, you break free from that middle management curse. You didn't switch jobs, you didn't change bosses, you didn't change teams, you didn't change anything except for you started to proactively manage your career. When you're deliberately thinking about your career, you start to get resourceful, and then you start thinking outside of the day to day, and you look for possibilities. So the actual one thing that I'm talking about today is 15-minute ally meetings. And this is one piece of the process that I teach with my executive promotion process that opens up all of the possibilities to get you into, one, those higher levels of leadership where you actually start to have the title and the pay to match your abilities, but also to start getting that influence where your words are actually mattering and where people at the top are actually listening to you. So again, let's say nothing changes in terms of the technicality, yet you're really being included in the conversation. Yet all of a sudden, they pass something where your team gets a bunch of new direct reports, or perhaps you just don't get laid off because you're so valuable to your boss or your boss's boss, and they want to keep you around. Let me give you a story of actually from just yesterday. So, a woman that I work with, she is a senior manager, and we've been working together one on one for 1 week. So, I have an 8-week coaching program. We've been working together for 1 week. Now, this magical opportunity didn't happen as a result of the 1 week of coaching. It happened because she bought my book a year ago and started reading it, and then implemented this practice 1 year ago. And then at the time of our second coaching call, she shared with me exactly how all the pieces came together and exploded in this beautiful, magical fireworks experience. So basically, what happened to her was she came to my call and she said, "Oh my God, Stacy, you're really going to love this." And I was like, "Ooh, cool. What happened?" And she's like, "Well, my boss's boss came to me and announced that they were going to cut our team back in half. So we were going to go from 10 until 5." And she said, "My first thought was, oh no, what does that mean?" And she said, "Oh, no, 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 we're keeping you." She was like, "Oh, that's great." And she said, "You want to know why?" And she said, "Well, yes, actually, I do." And she said it was because this other leader in a different department at the vice president level really likes her. And he vouched for her in the group leadership team meeting. And he said that we needed to keep her. And she was like, oh, wow. So notice what her boss didn't say, that she was really great at her job. Now, my client is really great at her job, but so are the other 9 people or the 5 people who are being moved or let go. So I really want you to let that sink in. So her boss said the reason that she was staying is because of another VP vouched for her and said that she needed to stay. And she said to me, you know what, Stacy, I wouldn't even have a relationship with him if it wasn't for you. So she reached out to him because she read my book and it talked about 15-minute ally meetings. And she said, so I was like, what do I have to lose? And I scheduled a 15-minute ally meeting with him. And since then, for this past year, I've met with him every 2 months, once every 2 months. And he has said to me multiple times that no other senior managers are doing this, that no other people at the organization are reaching out to him, that he really enjoys our conversations. And then what did it lead to? It led to her not being laid off, not being let go. She is one of the 5. She stood out amongst her peers. That is what we're looking for here so that we actually start to stand out. The other thing is that, she might be in that middle management position, so she might still be feeling a little bit stuck. But now that this has happened, she realizes, oh my gosh, the key to my success is building more relationships. I can still continue to be really good at my job, but if I can connect to more people outside of my little teeny tiny group, then not only will they have my back when needed, but she can start to be included in the bigger conversations of the organization. And so now she can even follow up with him. She feels really proud about her job. I didn't ask her this directly, but I did point out that they didn't say they were keeping her because of her amazing work ethic. Sometimes when that happens, we can actually feel worse after that, because after that kind of compliment, because we're like, well, how do we keep that up? How do I work more hours? I'm already feeling exhausted. And now you're asking me to stay and work 60 hours. So it's like, whenever you get promoted because of your work product, then it just equals more hours, more hours, more hours, more hours, more hours. But in this case, she got kept anyway, because she had this relationship with this other leader at the organization. So then that tells her, how does she keep her job? More relationships, more relationships, more relationships. That is so fun. Like, as women, we're craving that connection. We're craving that, having other people around us to really support us, to advocate for us when we're not in the room. This is like a dream come true, but she actually implemented it and made it happen. So in today's episode, if you do nothing else and walk away, I really want you to start to schedule that first 15-minute ally meeting. Just figure it out. Figure out somebody that you want to build a relationship with that you don't know, and start building a relationship with them, because we don't know what is going to happen, where it's going to go, right? And my recommendation with the 15-minute ally meetings is to do 5 of those, 6 of those. But I wanted to give you this example of one. She just did 1 and she didn't even think about it. She's like, oh my God, it's been like a year. I remember the moment when I was like, sure, why not? I'll do what Stacy says. And then she went out and did it, and then it worked. So this is how you start to break out of that middle management hell, where you start to feel like, when you're in middle management hell, it feels like everything is working against you. It feels hard. It feels like you're pushing. But in this case, she was able to just simply receive. She was able to just receive the reward and to say, wow, my efforts in this tiny way paid off. Now, she's still really, really great at her job, which she always was. But if you want to very much stand out, you have to have those relationships as well. Another client of mine built an incredible relationship simply with a mentor. It was a female mentor at her organization in a different department. That's another way that I recommend, is just somebody that you admire. And a lot of times for women, it's another woman at the organization, because we look at the leadership team and there's no other women. And so we just kind of reach out to them. We're like, hey, I just want to talk to you about your career. I just want to learn from you. I just want to be around you, whatever that might be. And so she built this relationship over time with her boss. And my client was a director. So she was very much a middle manager, and she didn't even have a lot of exposure up. So, like, up to the executive team, besides like a mentor like this. Instead, she had the boss who basically told her what to do all the time. And then she had 200 employees in various different ways below her. So this is a middle manager to the T definition in Wikipedia. And, she was fine in her job. She just knew that she was meant for more and she wanted more recognition. She was putting in a lot of hours. It was very stressful. She would ask herself, like, what else is there? And so, on the side, as her little side hustle, she developed this relationship with a woman in a different department who was an executive leader. Fast forward to an opening on that woman's team 2 levels below, right? So not a direct report, but she pulled her over and she said, "Hey, I want you to work on our team. We have this opening. It's going to be perfect for her." So she got her promotion to senior director. She also moved into a group that she knew nothing about. So she's still technically a middle manager where she's a senior director. She has people above her, she has people below her. But now she has so much more freedom, so much more enthusiasm for her job, so much more support, so much more guidance because she's not an expert in that field. She doesn't feel like that subject matter expert. She doesn't feel like 80 hours of work will do anything. What she has to do instead is build relationships with the team, rely on her team, which also motivates them to step up and do more for her. Her husband joked at her that it's like, "What do you do all day long? Your work is so different now." The only thing that's different is her emotional capacity, how happy she feels to just be at work. And so all she did is, well, she did switch jobs into this group that she knew nothing about. But the way that she got there was through building this relationship with this other woman because she had to build trust. The only way they're going to promote you into an area is if they trust that you can do that job. They trust you as a leader. A lot of times we're relying on our trust as a subject matter expert. And so then we just get more money, more problems when we move over. We just move into another middle management position. And then we have that trust that we can deliver. So then we just have to kind of deliver at a larger scale. But when you can show them that you are an excellent leader and that you bring a lot of great ideas to the table, then they start to value as the middle manager with the big ideas. You become a trusted companion to them, somebody that they, of course, would never let go. But not only that, they want to continue to promote. They want to continue to grow. They want to continue to advocate for you. So that you're no longer the victim. You have other people around you supporting you. And this all starts with 15-minute ally meetings and being willing to just look up and to think about your career in a very, very, very different way. To realize that you don't have to be in middle management forever. You may never aspire or even make it to the executive suite or all the way to the tippity top where finally you feel like you're, in a higher level executive position and nobody's telling you what to do. But what you can do is you can continue to grow your own capacity of leadership where other people start to work for you. And that's the difference between middle management hell and just middle management. Like I said, my dentistry hell or a dentist. It is still a job. It is something that we wake up and we have to do and we have to think about it. My clients still have me as a coach several years after their promotions, several years after they break free of middle management because they have all of the day-to-day work that they have to do at work. And so I really get to be that executive coach for them and really coach them through the challenges that they're facing at work. But it's a completely different mindset and level when you have those advocates around you, when you feel like you have that element of control and you feel like other people have your back and you're not just constantly being ping-ponged around. And I didn't even go into the shame part, but being told that it's basically, directly or indirectly your fault because you didn't take good enough care of your teeth. My wish is that everybody breaks free from middle management hell. It does not have to be that way. And if you're feeling stuck and frustrated, I understand. I see you. And there is a path forward, and it can open up in as little as 1 week or 1 year. You just have to start taking that first step. If that first step is something that you want to do, then I invite you to schedule a call with my team. Go to stacymayer.com/discovery to schedule something, just a time to talk. This is a no obligation call. We'll talk about where you're at in your leadership journey, what you're looking to do next. And if it's something that I can help support you on and really help guide you and remind you of what's possible at that next level of leadership, start building these 15-minute ally meetings, chipping away one step at a time to freedom, then I am all for it. Get on my calendar today. And I am just so excited about the work that we're doing inside of the leadership table and how we're truly changing how women show up at work and what becomes possible for them. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Before you go, I have a question for you. Do you know how close you are to your next promotion? Really? Not what your boss has told you, not what you even believe to be true, but have you actually taken the time to sit down, take an assessment, review the 5 categories that it takes to get promoted into senior executive leadership positions, and decided where you fall in each category, and given yourself a ranking on a scale of 1 to 10 of how close you are to getting your next promotion? Have you done this? Well, now's your chance. If that feels interesting to you and you're like, hey, I want to know exactly how close I might actually be, or how far away you might be, and what it's going to take to get you even closer, then I invite you to take my promotability quiz. This is a quiz that I put together with practical tips that actually tell you where you're lacking and where you're winning. What are the areas that you actually need to improve, and not necessarily what your boss is telling you all the time, so that you can take concrete steps towards landing that next promotion and changing the face of the leadership table. Go to yourpromotabilityscore.com to take your free assessment today.